It was only just a few hours after the Saints played the Jacksonville Jaguars in their second preseason game, but both those teams made a trade just a few hours after the game ended. And in this clip, you gotta wonder, was Kellen Moore and Liam Cohen talking about the trade post-game? Who knows? But the Saints traded away a fan favorite in defensive tackle Colin Saunders to the Jacksonville Jaguars in return for center and offensive lineman Luke Fortner to give the Saints some depth on the offensive line, while sending away a player who likely would not have made the team in Colin Saunders. And we're here to break down the Saints trade between the Jacksonville Jaguars in today's video. I'm Cash, and you should take 5 seconds to like the video and subscribe. Help support the channel. We're trying to reach 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We could maybe hit it before the start of the regular season. We're at 13.6 right now. I appreciate the support. Let's keep this thing going into the regular season. And with all that being said, let's dive into this trade. So Sunday was an eventful day for the Saints and the Jaguars, not because they played each other, but also because, well, they got a trade deal done. The initial report literally came out like 5 hours after the game ended here on the Pacific time. The game ended at like 1 o'clock or around 1 o'clock, and this got posted at 6:21. But from Tom Pelissero, that the Saints are trading away veteran defensive tackle Colin Saunders to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what's hilarious about this is that Colin Saunders started for the Saints in that preseason game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then like a few hours later gets traded to that team. And in return, the Saints got center Luke Fortner from the Jacksonville Jaguars, the veteran offensive lineman, giving them some help, some extra depth at that offensive line center position. We're going to dive into that more in just a moment, but let's talk about the Saints trading away Colin Saunders first. First things first, when did these guys have time to discuss a possible trade? I mean, the trade details probably had to be done in this photo right here or in the clip on the screen. Like, were they talking about a trade right here? Because do they even have time to talk about trades the day of the game? Aren't the Jags like flying back? Isn't their general manager flying back and Mickey Loomis is dealing with locker room stuff? Maybe, I don't know. But I have a gut feeling that they were talking about a trade in this photo. That being said, though, the Saints trading away Colin Saunders makes a lot of sense. The team has a lot of players at the defensive line positions, especially the defensive tackle spots, and there is probably just no room for Saunders to make the team. They have like 8-9 defensive tackles, and not only that, but Saunders simply just doesn't fit the scheme that Brandon Staley's running. He doesn't really have a role, and he likely was not going to make the team regardless. And so trading him to a team and getting something in return for a player that you were going to cut, I think that's a win. That's a productive That's a positive in my book. If you're going to cut someone and you're able to trade them and get something in return that you find valuable, I think that's a good cause. When it comes to the cap space and trading away Colin Saunders, because I know some of you are going to be curious about what this does, there's not really any huge savings for the Saints here because they restructured his contract earlier this offseason. He only had a $1.3 million salary after the restructure, so they don't really save too much there. But getting rid of him, trading him away because he wasn't going to make the team, doesn't fit the system or scheme, and they're just overcrowded on the defensive line, makes a lot of sense. Trading away Saunders and getting something in return. Saunders signed with the Saints back in 2023, and he's had some good moments. I think a lot of people like him because of his personality, but on the field, he isn't as good as some may think. Obviously, he had the big standout play interception against Patrick Mahomes. But overall, I think his tenure with the Saints was a little bit more disappointing than it was productive. That's just my opinion, though. Jeff Duncan pulled up the lowest graded Saints in that preseason game versus the Jaguars, and on defense, number 1 was Colin Saunders as the lowest graded defensive player. So, you know, there were some issues with Saunders. He didn't fit the system or scheme, and so he's someone that I think just had to go regardless, whether that was a roster cut or a trade, and they sent him off to Jacksonville. Saunders did post on Twitter a kind of a farewell thank you to the Saints fans and Who Dat Nation. He said he was grateful, hashtag Who Dat, thank you, and had this message for the Saints fans. Here it is if you want to read it. Being Saunders, and he's on his way to Jacksonville. Another pretty funny part about this whole freaking trade is that literally pregame, the Saints Twitter social media account posting Saunders as the warming up at receiver. Now, I will say Saunders playing fullback in 23, being the lead blocker for Taysom Hill, that was pretty fun. I think that's why a lot of fans like him. He's like a fun, exciting personality player to watch. But something had to be done. He was part of one of the worst run defenses in the NFL last year. He wasn't getting a lot of sacks or production. And now that he doesn't fit what Brandon Staley's wanting to do, and they're trying to go with this youth movement, and now Christian Boyd and Vernon Broughton move up on the roster spots, it had to be done. I mean, just simply looking at the Saints defensive line depth chart, I mean, some of these guys are DNs, but they'll play like a D tackle position. There's just so many guys here, and you want to see some of the younger guys get more playing time, like Christian Boyd and Vernon Broughton. So, like, those are two guys who are now going up on the depth chart with Colin Saunders getting traded. I think that's a good thing. Ridgeway got hurt. I don't think he'll make the team. But some of these guys deserve to get more playing time, and now with Saunders out of the way, that opens up more opportunity for them. All right, now let's talk about Luke Fortner, the guy the Saints got in return from the Jacksonville Jaguars, the center and offensive lineman. The Saints and the Jaguars did a player-for-player swap, and it kind of just feels like the teams traded away players who were going to be cut. It kind of felt like Colin Saunders was going to get cut in a few weeks, and Luke Fortner, the Jacksonville Jaguars backup center, was going to get cut in a few weeks. So they swapped players, and now, they kind of fill a void of what was needed. The Saints needed some depth at the center position because Will Clapp was placed on injured reserve recently. He's out for the season. They need some depth in some roster spots and some talent behind Eric McCoy at center. Get some veteran offensive line play in there. Someone who can help with the younger guys. So it makes a lot of sense why they traded for Luke Fortner. He was a third-round pick in 2022 who has appeared in every single game or has been at least active for every single game of his NFL career. He's played in 51 games and has suited up for 51 games in his 3-year career. In his first 2 seasons, he started 34 games before this past year. He's played over 2,000 snaps and has only given up about 6 sacks according to Ross Jackson. Now that sounds pretty good, but you look at the film and you look at the tape and you look what Jags fans have to say about this guy, and they're not big fans of him. They kind of hate this dude. Now that could be a thing of like he's the weak link on their offensive line, like he's their Cesar Ruiz or Andres Pete, and the Saints could use another Andres Pete right now. They could use some extra help on that offensive line backup depth. So maybe someone else's 50th best player can be the Saints' 40th best player or something like that. The Saints needed some center help behind Eric McCoy, even though Torricelli Simpkins looks pretty good at the center spot. We also have Trevor Penning dealing with an injury. Nick Saltavari is out. Cesar Ruiz got hurt in yesterday's game. I don't know if he's going to be out long term. Killamore said he thinks he's fine, but they're going to have to see and evaluate it. If he's out, does Simpkins go to right guard while Fortner stays at center? There's a lot of things to consider here. I like trading for a guy to provide some nice veteran, solid depth behind Eric McCoy, a guy who's missed a lot of games over the past 2 seasons. Fortner played in Sunday's game against the Saints. He appeared to play 20 snaps and he allowed 0 pressure. So at least he played better for the Saints than Colin Saunders did for the Jags. We have some clips of the center here, Luke Fortner. Here he is in the middle. Why don't we just kind of watch some of these clips, see what goes on. They got a man in motion there. Not a good rep from Fortner on that one. Let's skip ahead. Here he is, number 78. Misses a block again. Misses that block. Kind of whiffs right there. Snaps it. So this is more of a bad this is more of a bad clip. I'm sure this is not what you guys want to be seeing from a guy they just traded for. Honestly, I would have liked to have seen the Saints get a draft pick in return for Colin Saunders, but it is what it is. Here's some more footage. Hopefully these ones are a little bit better. Here's the center right here. Not a great wrap. We do have some good plays in here, I promise. I just don't know where exactly they're at. Here's the center again. Just kind of seems like he's there like Cesar Ruiz or their Andres Pete. And those guys weren't great for the Saints, but they could use those guys as like the 6th best offensive lineman on the team. I don't think that one was that bad from him, or that one wasn't really his fault. I don't think these ones are okay. Let's see. I think this next one. Oh no, this one's not it. Here's the center. Actually, I don't know. The quarterback kind of ran into the sack on that one. Okay, this is a good play from him. I promise. This is a good play from Fortner. We'll skip ahead to this angle. Here's the center. Watch this guy right here. Direct snap to Travis Etienne. Makes a block, pulls out, gets into open space, makes a nice block, and then makes another nice block to allow his guy to score the touchdown. That was a really nice rep from Fortner. Here's another angle of it. Here he is getting out here. lead blocker, makes a big block right there, and makes another one to allow his guy to score a touchdown. So that was a really good rep from Luke Fortner, the center. Here's another good rep from him at the center position against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just gonna skip ahead. Watch this guy right here. Nice block right there. Gets to the linebacker, makes some really nice blocks, allowing the running back to cut back and not get tackled right there. So there's okay stuff. We showed more bad than good here. There's not a whole bunch of good footage, at least on Twitter. But this guy, depth, it is what it is. We're not going to be getting a superstar trade. I would have preferred a draft pick in return for Colin Saunders. Instead, they got a veteran guy who is going to be backing up Eric McCoy, and I think it makes sense with Will clapping out for the rest of the season, getting a veteran guy who will be fine or be okay at that center spot if Eric McCoy does get injured. And that does it for today's video. Let me know what you make of the Saints and Jags trade down in the comments below. Do you wish you would have kept Saunders or got a draft pick instead? Thoughts on Luke Fortner? I'm okay with it. It just kind of feels like both teams traded away players who are going to get cut, and hopefully they can do enough to make the team that they're on. Now, I'm okay with trading for a backup center who's going to back up. I'm okay trading for an offensive lineman who's going to provide solid depth behind a guy who's missed a lot of games the past few years. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, help support the channel. I'm Cash, and I'll catch you next time. Have a good one.